Great question.
Perception plays a big part in our ability to manage stress. Is a glass half empty or is a glass half full? According to article Stress Mess in the U.S., written in the New York Post, 48% of Americans are more stressed now than they were 5 years ago. According to Dr. Smith, founder of Smith Family Incorporations, 75 to 90% of healthcare visits are an account to stress. So what exactly does all this mean? Does stress actually affect our health, or does it just make us feel crazy? How many of you guys dealt with stress coming to college and looking for a roommate? Raise hands. Yeah. How many of you guys dealt with stress learning the campus here? What about learning like basic things like meals, laundry, stuff like that? Yeah. So for us college students, stress really does seem unavoidable. What we have to keep in mind, however, is that we have the power to control the way that we think. We have the power to control whether we think the glass is half empty or the glass is half full. And here I had a glass that was half empty and half full, but that didn't show up. So next, I'd like to talk about one type of stress, which is known as social stress, but the technical term is social anxiety. But before we get into that, let's define what stress is. So according to ABC News, stress is two things. Stress is anything that poses a threat to our well-being, but it's also the way that we respond to that challenge or that threat. So next, let's talk about social stress or social anxiety. Social anxiety is an excessive fear of social situations. Now, the SAI, which is the Social Anxiety Institute, is located in Phoenix, Arizona. Oh, no, that's good. And this is a treatment center that exists to offer encouragement and treatment towards people who deal with this type of anxiety. And according to their website, social stress is the third largest psychological problem in the United States. 15 million Americans are affected by this type of stress, so it's a huge problem in our society. If you go to the next slide, we can see on their website there's a link for excerpts and experiences for people at the treatment center, and I'd like to read one. Julio says, "When I was out, I would have froze up and just stayed silent in a corner, wanting to mingle but feeling tongue-tied only because my head was full of negative thoughts. And afterwards came the beating up on myself. Why did I bother going? They must all think bad of me in some way, shape, or form. What's wrong with me?" So as many of you guys can see, there are a ton of feelings that are tied to this excerpt, and some of these are self-consciousness, embarrassment, inferiority, and judgment. And these four emotions are definitely emotions that I think everyone in this room can relate to at some point in their college careers. So now that we know what social anxiety and stress is, let's talk about another type of stress, which is academic stress. So academic stress, again, I think everyone can relate to this, can take place before, during, or after your college experience, and the academic expectations upon entering college are really intense. Some of them, while we're here, can be maintaining a scholarship, making the dean's list, committing to a higher level of work, and also just preparing for the real world. Some of these things may be preparing for interviews, trying to get into the job world, and actually successfully make a living and live life on our own. And the one that I'd like to talk about most is declaring a major. At the age of 18 or 19, we come to college and we're not really sure what we want to study, what we want to major in, but that's okay because most people really don't know. In the 2008 to 2009 bulletin for San Francisco State University, it states that most students in college change their major at least once while we're here. So if that's you, it's okay, it's extremely common. So now that I've informed you about social stress and academic stress, let's talk about how these two affect our health. So some of these effects can be short-term and some of them can be long-term. So if you go to the next slide, we can talk about the short-term effects first. Actually, the next one after this. So some of them can be increased heart rate, increased blood pressure, muscle tension, and poor digestion. And others can be long-term effects, which are rapid pulse, dizziness, mood changes such as depression, impulsive behavior, and irritability, insomnia, and feeling fatigue. According to the AIS, which is the American Institute of Stress, stress is extremely subjective and it differs from person to person. So I may deal with a stressful situation differently than you guys might, and that's just because we have different ways of maintaining and managing our stress levels, and we all deal with stress management differently. So I'm confident that you now have a clear idea of these two types of stress and the ways that it can directly affect us. Stress has become a common term in our world these days. For college students, stress really is unavoidable. How we manage that stress, however, makes all the difference.